I'm, missing half my face, one of my arms, missing all the flesh. Bone's still there, that's fine. I don't know how I'm gonna end up explaining this to Brett and Norallie. I'm pretty sure Norallie's probably gonna scream her head off when she sees me next. But, that happens. What I'm expecting, though, is, after the sand dogs, with which we've, dropped some, very heavy objects upon and crushed for their armor and other things, I rather managed to spot a massive writhing mass moving through the sand, a dark mass with sand dogs being driven before it, and I get the feeling that that might be a sandworm. And if it's a sandworm, then the boar will be more complete and upgraded than we thought it was going to be, with all sorts of different bits. She wanted the ship fixed. She's getting the ship fixed. If it just so happens to be with monstrosity parts, then it just so happens to be with monstrosity parts.
Well, there's the phrase "any port in a storm," and I guess any part in a desert. But yeah, exactly. I think you're looking at a juicy morsel here. Anything else that you'd like to add?
I could really do with some new clothing.
I can only imagine you seem to be losing weight at a fantastic rate at this point. We might have to end up losing that name Muffin Top at this point if you continue starving yourself to death. Oh, wait.
Well, yeah, you lost a lot of flesh weight, and you have been in the desert for a little bit here, exerting yourself, sweating. You don't exactly have, banquets before you. So, Mordecai, you might not have changed too much, but Celine's definitely done some toning, and Selter, I guess you have too.
Actually. Well, I can keep us flush with food and water.
Honey, I make this look beautiful regardless of the circumstance. Don't you forget it.
Mordecai, then, would you like to discuss yourself and any of the changes then that perhaps you've gone through over the desert too then?
Well, there's quite a lot going on, actually. Who knew that this trip in the desert was going to be so weird? I think I'm starting to hear voices, and I'm not exactly excited about it. And if this voice is who I think it is, the fact that they're reaching out to me is a little bit strange too, because I basically epitomize everything it hates. If my assumption is correct. But having caught some sand dogs and not really leaving anything to waste, and draining their blood into a barrel and keeping it fresh, I seem to have developed a strength about on par with Selter.
Yes, Mordecai.
I'm kind of excited about that, because I'm rather a lanky individual, usually. But, I don't know. It's temporary, I'm sure. But, it's useful for the moment, so can't complain, really. Except for the fact that, there's always the danger that I will attack one of my friends. Not exactly thrilled by that fact. So, let's cure the vampirism. And the one lead that I had turns out to be kind of a dead end, so we'll see if that actually
a dead end.
We'll see if that actually pans out or not.
All right. Anything else, Mordecai?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Now let's go over to Captain Selter. Selter, what's happening with you?
I have 2 maniacs I'm currently stuck on board with. Okay? One is hearing voices and is saying, "Oh no, not me." And then the other one ended up managing to lose half of her face, and for some reason still has all of that junk in the trunk. And I don't understand how she does it. But she's currently talking about trying to end up taking on, well, that thing over there. And bluntly, I have no idea on how they expect to end up doing that. It's kind of in it bothered me just a little bit that there's some presumptions going on here. I mean, if they're wanting to do it, well, more power to them. But you know, I got things I can do, and well, there's enough dead meat here that, as far as I'm concerned, it's just turning into jerky at this point. I mean, I don't know if you end up knowing our particular appetites being that of Dragonborn, specifically those of my variety, but you might notice that we have this tendency to let things ferment, to pickle, to dry out. You know, all the different flavors. Eating a meal while it's still bleeding, well, it's only fun when it's, best served live. Outside of that, I mean, ugh. I mean, at least most of the mammals have figured out, at the very least, to end up cooking their food just a little bit. So, there's that, but I'm stuck with these two.
Yep. If it bleeds, I feeds.
Yep. If it had a mother, it's for dinner. Now, that being said, the sad truth is that I'm kind of dependent on them. Even though one is currently screaming something about cut the man, eat the meat. Thankfully, the 2 living companions are both of the female variety. So once he starts saying cut the women, I'm going to have to start taking exception to that. And might have, well, any good diplomat ends up knowing that you need a plan to end up removing any variable off the board at any given time. And these 2 have forced me to do an uncomfortable amount of planning.
Well, at least by being the captain of an airship, you can indeed, fly by the seat of your pants, and so you have that as an option.
Where the hell's my wine glass?
Yeah. All right. Well, then we have to go to the deserts. Well, rather, we're going to go to the skies above first. As after a period of time, we have a Brighton Norallie, and we'll get to their intros when they're up here. After some scavenging and scrounging, recovering, sort of plundering an oasis for materials and taking a dip in the waters and acquiring a pet named Snowflake. You had also done some hunting and also some repurposing of some old crates that you weren't really using because you could recycle the nails and some of the other things used to bash these things. So on the horizon, the 3 of you with a stroke of luck. Who knows the odds? It would have been like 5% or something like that. You ended up seeing this massive squirming mass. A bit on the horizon. I mean, not like super 100 miles away horizon, but you can't miss this thing. And in fact, it is so huge that yes, sand dogs were sort of fleeing before it, akin to if any of you sailed on the seas and you might find that there are fish that leap from the waters before the prow of a boat or some other, like a hunter beast is after them, and so the fish kind of flop up out of the water to try and get away from whatever's chasing it. And so you're seeing this now with the sand dogs, which had been formidable themselves as you encountered them. And here is a big, juicy source of biomass. Should you wish to harvest it or study it, or and if not it, then there's the sand dogs that it's chasing down. You have some options, however, if you wish to engage with this creature.
I'm not exactly excited about fighting that thing. That sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, but we need the biomass, so,
Is that what we're calling it now?
yes.
Sure? Question mark?
It's a scientific term, okay?
Leave it to the doctor.
Well,
Let's
If
figure out a
anybody
plan of
to
attack for this
understand-
thing, because if we're not going to be able to just drop a crate on it.
Well, I have a few things, but not much. So,
I mean, you know, having a look at it, the ship kind of now looks like a mole with teeth. You know, we could do a fly down and attempt to pick it up like a bird catching a worm.
that sounds terrible.
This thing
How
is
do you know
probably
this thing is going to support the weight.
this thing is probably about the length, if not longer, than the ship.
Maybe not.
still,
Mention the weight.
We need to figure out a plan of
Breaking
attack,
the
is
ship,
what I mean.
trying to attack it that way.
We need to figure out a plan of attack, is what I mean.
I mean, you were saying
Any
before,
ideas?
do things at range.
well, you can always end up doing that thing you like to end up doing and summoning up all those little handmaidens of yours and maybe end up doing something with that.
I could do that. That's the thing.
Actually.
I could do both of those.
I mean, in theory, how much reach you got on them?
Well, the small ones.
Well,
don't go far,
the small ones kind of just flitter about me. The big one is anywhere within a ways. Yeah, even then I still have to place it kind of close to me.
Yeah.
Well, let us observe its behavior a little, from a safe height, as it were, and let us get a better understanding of what we're dealing with.
Good idea.
However, I do have one particular way I might be able to aid in. You're probably not going to like it.
Using someone as bait.
Oh, please, honey. We're all bait. But, that being said, I know. She leans over to the side of the ship and gives a tap on one of the engines. Right now, we are running extremely light. I mean, this ship has probably lost, what, maybe 3/4 of what it actually is, and is now just a hollowed-out carcass of its former glory.
You could say that.
So this fifth engine here, we don't exactly need now, do we?
Is it causing some kind of, like, balance issue right now?
Right now, there's 3 on that side, 2 on that side. You tell me. But
I mean, if we want to do that, and it
if I
causes
might make a
problem.
point,
Yeah.
well, you're the expert. But if this thing breaks open on its head, there's going to be a lot of pissed off things that are probably going to go after the very first thing that is within, well, reaching distance.
It could also come after us.
Maybe. But that depends on the will and the commands that they were given.
That's a good point. Alright, so I mean, we could go with that first.
Look, this thing's a lot bigger, it's a lot meaner, and I have no intention on going against something that is that fresh. Now, that being said,
I'm gonna keep an eye on that one though, just to see if anything pops to mind a little later on. Just so you're aware, Matty.
but that being said, I'd much rather end up considering that as an option. Let's say that's option O.
What's
Yeah.
option A then?
Well, we're still figuring that out. Option A is first follow it along, see what happens. Who knows? Maybe this thing ends up getting in a tussle with something, and we just need to end up dealing with the victor of the carcass. We might also end up having this wonderful little tidbit where we might be able to observe some form of behavior, understand what it wants, manipulate its situation as such, and in the very worst case scenario, well, I can always end up diving in and cutting my way out, I suppose. Seem like a
Would you be
complete
able
waste.
to get back?
Honey, if I say that I'm gonna do something, just assume that it's probably gonna happen.
I mean, if
I
if
said
you
I like
need
this ship.
assistance, if you ever need assistance getting back up, I can do that.
Oh yeah, you know plenty about being raised. She looks immediately to Celine.
No, I was meaning more getting out of a situation and back on the ship.
I'm sure she has a way.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that, but here's the thing. I'd like to know what we're dealing with before we end up continuing with the plan. So, let us not end up going to any presumptions. Right now, this thing is not trying to eat us. I consider that bluntly a wonderful little bit of an advantage that I do not intend to squander. Right now we can maintain watching at a safe distance, and unless this thing could somehow jump up like somewhere about, let's say, 300, 400 feet, I imagine that we're gonna be okay for the most part. If it decides to do anything that looks at all like it could be burrowing to come back up, we go a lot higher.
Fair enough.
Now, that being said,
What's up?
why are we still discussing this?
Hmm.
She just immediately goes to the bow and starts just trying to observe this, trying to get and understand what is it that she is currently dealing with, and maybe something else will come to mind. But in the meantime, well, this is safe. I like safe.
You are presumably safe. That is correct. Go ahead and make with the things that have been discussed, and in particular with the current conversation, Selter, you can make an investigation at advantage, please. Five or a 6?
I am a horrible individual.
You suddenly turn to self introspection as at the bow of the ship. Okay, so you're there. Do you have Snowflake with you as you're contemplating? Are you just sort of like, petting Snowflake and having its ruffles kind of drift in the breeze?
Yes, petting. That's what we'll call it.
Okay.
That's the plan, to observe for a moment and see what happens.
Sure. All right, you do see that this thing is... it's not capable of the greatest of speeds from what you're observing over this short period of time. However, it does... It is engaged in some combat with these sand dogs, who are trying some pack tactics, and will come around and swarm and start to try and tear at its flesh. And for a moment, it looks like they dealt the thing a pretty bad wound. Pardon me. Who thought soda makes you burp? That's dumb. And so this liquid just kind of oozes out of the wound, and it emits this roar that kind of sends up a dust cloud out of its like circular mouth here as the fangs kind of wobble, and then they open up extra wide, and the thing does a face plant into the desert sands. And you just see that just it pulses along its body as it begins to actually work its way down below the sands in kind of a grotesque penetration of the earth here. And it seemingly has disappeared. And the sand dogs are coming back to start kind of lapping up at the goo and flesh and whatnot that was ripped off of this thing.
How many sand dogs are there?
9.
Woof. Alright, well, looks like it retreated. We don't want to try and attack this group of sand dogs, do we? That's kind of a lot of them.
Maybe. We'll have to end up seeing. This thing went down, but it will come back up. I mean, these things ran off, and now are desperate to eat. Which case, I would suspect that that thing would be coming back up and taking a meal in 3, 2, 1.
Roll a d20. Let's see.
I can't roll. Don't make me roll. I officially cannot roll over a 5.
so I mean, in fairness, like my roll has been, well, I haven't done too many just yet, but there's not exactly a bunch of low numbers that are sticking anyway, I should say. Celine ended up making a little stealth roll on the side here that, if you had advantage, would have been cool. All right, so Selter, you're like, come on, 3, you're waiting, you're waiting for something, and then there's just these 9 sand dogs just kind of like snuffling about. They're kind of nipping at each other because maybe they're extra hungry because they've been running this whole time. These you're getting a good glimpse more at the sand dogs. They're definitely scavengers. They're not the brightest of beasts, but they're there kind of eating this ichor-soaked sand, which they don't really seem to have a problem doing either. And then, you know, some chunks of flesh. And 2 of them start getting into a tussle with each other over a scrap. And it turns into some biting and some clawing. And a couple of the others are just sort of like, they move away. A lot of this stuff has been lapped up off the desert floor already. And it's now turning into a tumble, and there's just these kind of like howling, not necessarily barks, but they're clapping their armor plates that are at the front of their kind of shovelly faces together, along with making some guttural noises as they're tussling, and they're trying to tear at each other, but I mean they can't really hurt each other unless they're super duper trying already. And so as this plays out, then there is then a rumbling from below the sands, and in just a moment there's or an equivalent from these large armored beasts as the 2 that were tussling, pardon me, are tossed up from the explosion from down below. That they're tossed up in the air. The others are just sort of blown off to the side and scatter. And this big circular maw just rises up out of the desert, and as these 2 things are still even kind of tussling, even because they've been intertwined, as they're still even like yipping and fighting in their own style, this thing just kind of opens up so its teeth are extra wide, like even outside the circumference of the body, and then the upper half of this thing is now sort of laying above the sands, and you just see its teeth are kind of like, it almost gets like a puckered sour face as its teeth curl in, and it folds its face a bit, and you just notice sort of some pulsing at the front, and then it opens its mouth once more, and you just notice a ripple travel down the thing's body slowly. The other sand dogs have beat a hasty retreat, and
how close is it to us, or no?
I mean, if you're just observing, you could be. It's a clear, beautiful day. I mean, so you got to find a little shade, Mordecai, but there's nothing really restricting your vision. You could be a couple 100 feet away and get a good view. You could be 50 feet away and get a good view. This is more up to you all.
Well then, that helps a little.
How close do you want to be, Selter?
How high did it jump?
It probably rose about 20 feet out of the sand, and then it's flopped over, maybe at a midway point. As the upper half is just sort of laying out there. You can see the gash that was torn out of its side when all these beasts worked together for once. It's kind of it's not it's not cauterized per se, but it has like a bunch of sand and grit that's like sticking to it, forming like a cast or like a scab of sorts. So it's still not bleeding out. It has an injury. It didn't instantaneously heal, but it has stopped bleeding out, and it does seem to use the land to kind of to do that.
Well then. I think I got myself a plan.
What's your plan?
We're gonna need a lot of rope.
A lot of rope.
Yep. She kind of grabs hold of one of the many that is just kind of like flailing in the back when flying off. Just kind of rattles a bit. Yeah, we're gonna need about, I'd say, 120, 130 feet.
What's your plan?
Well, I'd like to just drag one of those donuts. What's a donut? I don't know where that word came from. Never mind.
Must be some Shadowheart dish or something.
Probably. Been exposed to many a fine food. I'd say we end up grabbing hold of one of those, detach it, bring it down, and what the monkeys like to do is go fishing. Is that thing just mashed one of those things into powder? Now, try and imagine what would happen if it bit down on one of those. She points on the engine.
That's a thought. Try and catch it with the engine.
Well, what do you think's going to happen if we poke a hole in one of those things?
There's gonna be a lot of things that come out, for sure. Do you think it would go for that?
Well, given the fact that let's look at what we know. It's not watching them. It just came out of the ground and it didn't seem jack all. So I would end up getting the impression that this thing feels its way around. Now, if that is true, basically anything that vibrates might end up seeming like a bunch of, I don't know, tussling dogs.
I like this idea.
Question, Matty. Could I roll a nature check to see if I read anything on that kind of sensory type?
Yeah, well, you don't even need to roll. You watch something like this happen. I mean, you are a well, you're not a grave cleric as per the specific grave domain, but as a death cleric, I mean, you've been around your fair share of bodies and worms and other maggots and invertebrates and such as a part of the cycle of life and death. To know that they don't necessarily have fully formed senses the way that you do, but they can tell if something's going on by the vibrations going on around them, and so they could be able to listen. It could just be based on vibration, so it's actually it's not listening, but it's tactile.
Yep.
Pardon. Could it see? You're not close enough to see if it has eyes. Doesn't have anything that's very obviously eyes, but neither do the sand dogs. They're actually kind of small and squinty, kind of buried in that armor plate on their head, and that's because it makes it easier to burrow through sand and rock if you don't have large sensitive eyes, catching every little grit that's coming its way.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, if we want to sit down and detach one of these things, then drag it behind us as we go again, then let's try it.
Let us.
All right.
We'll do that.
Well.
Yep.
That being said, Mordecai, which would be the most damaged of all these engines? No sense getting rid of the good ones.
Right. Probably the one that we had issues with the other night.
Well then.
Yeah. Considering we're running on not even 5 engines, it's 4.5. We just cut off half the engine, half an engine.
There we go.
There is that one that was giving you trouble, Selter.
Yeah. Time to make an example.
Fair enough.
Just make an example to the inanimate objects that
Oh, did we not tell you, Celine? These are filled with ghosts.
I'm sorry, what?
They're filled with
Oh,
ghosts.
yeah. I wanted to eat a bunch of specters.
Oops.
You very much left that out.
You were going to sleep.
You could have just like, oh yeah, by the way, they're filled with ghosts. You could have told me.
Okay,
That's
well,
what I'm
that,
doing
no,
right
no, Mordecai, she actually pushes him aside and gets, right. Celine, darling, muffin top, right, half face. These, right here, are filled with the horribly disfigured damned of the souls of all varieties, stuffed into one of these metal tubes, enforcing to end up making sure that lift is possible. They are now enslaved and horribly mangled, forced to ever work and submit to the wielder who is driving the ship. They are
Cool.
done nothing more
Cool.
than exist in that little tube.
Yep.
My intention
Okay.
is I want to break the cookie jar in that thing's mouth. Now, being a connoisseur of the vengeful dead, my assumptions is that they ain't gonna take too kindly to it, and probably gonna end up hitting after the very first thing that they find. And since they're already inside the thing that busted it open, well, I'm just gonna let them do the work themselves.
No, I see what you mean. But the thing is, if you had told me this, ghosts are a type of undead. You want to know who's good with working with undead?
I'm still waiting to meet one.
She just looks at Mordecai like, you know who's good at working with undead?
I know somebody
What?
who's good at working on the dead. Usually, I always figured you were a top.
What?
I mean, you're not wrong, but that's not what I meant.
Anyway, let's
Yeah, the one person you didn't tell that there's undead in the ship.
You were asleep. I was having hallucinations again. It kind of didn't cross my mind again.
Well, for all we know, he was hallucinating anyway.
Mordecai. Okay. Well, this is good, because it means that I can set up something that will keep us safe.
Oh? The thing did have an instruction saying there's something about wards.
Yes, there are things that can ward off undead. I will just need to see if I can actually use that, is the thing. But, if we can, then we're good.
Alright.
Oh, don't you just look all excitable right now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go detach the thing. It's fine.
I'm gonna go get some rope. Celine, you can have the leftovers from Mordecai.
Celine, mechanically detaching the engine won't necessarily be difficult for Mordecai since he's spent some time studying them. However, Darkwolf is providing a sketch of the plated sand dogs here. Now, as the one he's working with is still live, so to speak, I imagine you want to be on hand to assist, or you have the lure, but is there necessarily a hook or some sort of an enforcement mechanism? Because rope, I mean, you could feasibly drag the engine along the sands without a problem. But if a beast this size were to clamp down on it, I mean, that rope is just gonna snap, or it's gonna tear the whatever it's hooked to aboard the ship.
Kind of the hope.
Yeah,
I don't
Oh,
need
the
getting
engine
dragged
goes
on the-
inside it, and the ghosts get out and just kill the thing from the inside.
Do you are you wanting to go down with the engine as well and be, more of
No.
an offering, or
I volunteer
do
for
you want to hide inside the engine as like the juicy surprise inside the center, like the creamy sweetness on the inside here?
We just drop that thing down, we drag it on the desert floor, wait for it to eat it, and then if we need to, we shoot it from range.
Unless
That's
it's
that's my thought.
thunder. We need to give it a reason not to.
Yeah, attack it.
Mordecai, take the wheel.
Mordecai, take the wheel. He is your co-pilot. Celine, make a religion check for me, please.
A religion check.
Yep.
Yep, I can do that. Oh God. It's not happening today, is it?
You're thinking too many things at once, I guess. It's
Tone early. That's what we did.
so there is going to be no little brain whisper in your ear here. I mean, there's resources that are available if you think about your situation or you think about the ship or whatever. So it wouldn't be me giving you new information, of course. This would just be, it would have been me presenting an option before you that you could still turn down. But unfortunately, your mind is a little too troubled right now to have an independent thought kind of bubble to the surface.
I'm just gonna detach the thing.
Okay. That's fine. Mordecai, make a Tinker Tools. And you can use strength, which it should be a problem because you still are Swoldekai from your blood intake here.
Yep. 15.
All right. This one, I mean, it was operational, but now that you know how it works, you're able to get it detached. You can harvest some more, like this kind of more of the wires in the control box, the kind of the mysterious black box that is filtering will and command here. So this engine, from the distance away that you have parked the ship, it falls into the sand.
I'm going to take it to the deck of the ship so that we can get some rope attached to it, and then when we're lifted off again, we can chuck it off.
Yep. Oh, you want to drop it on this thing? I thought you were going to drag it behind you like you're trawling.
We are.
Oh, yeah,
We are. We're just putting it on the deck.
Oh,
so
hang
that we
on
can
one
get the
second.
ropes
My
and stuff
headphones
attached.
just gave out. I got to plug them in. I've been so engrossed with what's happening. I've been neglecting the beeps. Boop, 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 boop. And I'm back.
Okay.
Okay.
So the plan is to drag it behind the ship, yes.
Okay.
But we kind of need to attach some rope.
We need to get it up onto the deck so we can get
Sure.
the ropes and stuff on it, and then when we lift off, we can toss it over the back onto the ground and then drag it behind us.
Okay.
While he is doing that, I'm gonna spend the time to and find some bits around in the Now as a question, in the prayer room, is there any holy water?
No, there was nothing like that. That was inside your makeshift quarters.
Okay, so I suppose I'm gonna have to sit down and I'm gonna have to spend some time and I'm gonna have to make some.
You
So
would
I'm
have to
gonna
make
do
it
that.
yourself. You are correct.
It's okay. I'm a cleric. I can make holy water.
All right.
So I'll sit down and start making holy water.
How long does that process take? Is it an hour per vial or something like that, or?
Let me have a look.
Okay.
And I will tell you.
While you're doing that, Mordecai, you're working on this thing. Kang, 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 kang. Selter, you hear the sounds of industry, as your ship is having that kind of uppity motor removed from it, and Mordecai's doing an excellent job. So the engine falls into the desert sand. You hop down, Mordecai, and it's rather light because this is made of whatever this. It's a sturdy enough material, but it is rather lightweight. And ultimately, the engines, while they are made of metal, from the sound and even as you're manipulating them, they do seem to have like a hollowness, which might make sense if there's a bunch of spirits kind of whirling around inside. And so, with your prodigious blood-fueled strength, you're able to kind of brace it against the side. Selter, you might need to make an assist though on, and one of you can roll an athletics at advantage, but I'll let you decide between the two of you, either who has the bigger pride or score to do so.
Go for it, Selter.
Naturally.
Yep.
Oh, lordy.
There you go. How's that for a roll?
All right, so a 30.
30.
Yeah. All right, so Mordecai, you're like, you're pushing up from below. Selter, you've grabbed onto one of the rims and you're hauling back as it's cresting over the side. Some of the wooden railing is kind of like splintering but I don't know. It has a function to prevent people from falling off. But is it necessary for flying? If people fall off, they deserve it. And so you
I'm learning.
See, you're training me well. And so you haul this thing and you drop it, and it comes to a rest. It almost so you have this large symbol to Ouija, sort of like stamped into the deck of the ship, and it's almost been almost eclipsed by this circular engine that is resting atop it now. But you've managed to successfully get that fifth finicky engine aboard the top deck of the Maw.
Alright, sweet. Find some rope and attach it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is an hour and a first level spell slot.
Okay. For
I'll do
for
that.
one dose or vial, or is it like per gallon or something?
It's one vial.
Okay.
But one vial is all we need.
Okay. So yeah, you can hear all this going outside while you're trying to enchant this this bit of oasis water here with the powers of Ouija.
Yeah. And after that's done, because that's I'm making the material that we need for the ward.
Did you for Fluffy Sheep did say you do need some amount of silver, or is that replaced by burning a spell slot?
Oh, do you need silver?
There might be a component to it, but I don't know if you could just enchant the water either.
Yeah, no, it's 1 hour. It's 1 hour, 25 GP of silver and a first level spell slot. That's an oof. Okay, we don't have 25 GP worth of powdered silver.
I'm wondering
If there was
wiring
100 GP worth of silver and iron, I could mix that together and also use that. But
There's the wiring from... I don't know what it's made of. It's an exotic metal. But it conducts something. We could give it a shot.
Conducts undead energy, apparently. Conducts ghosts.
Miracles have happened on
this.
this ship before.
I'll have a look at the metal and see if I have any insights as to whether I might be able to use this to
the wiring that I had.
Sure.
Yeah. See if I can't use that to
All right, so Celine, you go in and you begin your prayers. Darkwolf, man, Darkwolf is coming out with the power sketches here, with a Celter and a Snowflake. So you realize, I need some other components here, and so you go to the top deck where Mordecai is working on trying to fasten the engine here, and you're up close with this metal. You could examine it. It looks silvery, though it doesn't seem to have the properties of silver. You've not really had a tarnish issue or the like. Go ahead and make another religion check. Celine.
Alright, I'm gonna guidance myself before this one.
Oh, Weejas, please.
And then I'm gonna roll the 12? 10.
10.
It's a 10.
Okay. So, you're out there. This metal is, I don't know, could it work? You're gonna have to, you'd have to, use some sort of tool to try and scrape off shavings and experiment. And you probably don't have all day. Who knows how long this thing takes to digest or do whatever, but it may not be around for long. However, as you're on the top deck, you do notice that this big metal circle is covering a rather large circle with Weejas's symbol that was burned into the top deck of the ship from channeling her raw power as you did in those circumstances. And that has had an effect before. Could perhaps using that circle do something to help you?
Maybe it might. I would just have to figure out what it would be able to do. Which I'm guessing would be another check of some sort.
Well, yeah, but if that's what you wish to do.
Yeah, no, we'll try using the circle. It's here for a reason, so we might as well, right?
Presumably. I don't know if Weejas would just, burn, images of herself into the deck of random airships for no reason at all.
Yeah, Weejas is that vain.
In stereo, everyone.
Yeah, no, Weejas is in that vein.
Sure.
For a magical use. So, yeah, then let's try that.
If she was that vain, she would have let Celine keep her face.
I'm a vain being.
All right. Tell you what, go ahead and make another religion check, and this is going to be more of an over time, not something that just pops in your mind.
Yes.
Hey.
Better. It's double digits, and I don't have to roll a guidance.
There we go. Now the sand's kind of pouring out of your your ear now, but using this as a bit of like a focused ritual circle, this does have some kind of empowering effect, and it would still use a spell slot here, but this might be able to cover the material components for you to make holy water, or for you to cast some other kind of magic. After all, you did notice that there was this magical feeling as you've bonded to the zombies, that a couple of them seem to have just been, sure, they're just zombies now. You don't have to keep re-upping on them. You don't have zombies anymore, so there's not exactly any sort of an extraneous draw or a connection, but you feel as if you might be able to use this as some sort of an enhanced ritual circle or something of some kind.
That'll be good, because what I can do if I can use that if I can use this circle to fulfill the material components is cast this.
Magic circle. You create a 10-foot radius, 20-foot tall cylinder of magical energy centered on a point on the ground that you can see within range. Glowing runes appear wherever the cylinder intersects with the floor or other surface. Choose one or more of the following types of creatures. Circle affects a creature of the chosen type in the following ways. The creature can't willingly enter... okay. Now, are you wishing to fill this ritual circle with the magic circle? Are you trying to... You have this donut that's mostly overlaying it. Are you wanting to try and, I don't know, see if you can fix it to the engine? Or what are you looking to do with your magic circle here?
If I could put it on the engine, I could cast a spell and elect to cause its magic to operate in the reverse direction, preventing a creature of the specified type from leaving the cylinder and protecting targets outside it. Basically, I could turn the cylinder. I could turn that 10-foot radius, 20-foot tall cylinder into
We want to crack open and destroy the worm, though.
Oh no, that I can do. What we can do, right, though, is we can release the ghosts, toss the engine at the worm, like drag the engine. As the worm takes the engine, we cut the rope, and then I end the spell. Because then we don't have to worry about it not cracking. Although we could also use it to protect ourselves from the ghost.
That was more my thought.
Although there is an issue.
If you name undead.
Oh well, I mean, I could put you in the cylinder and then cast it. It's
Would that
just
shove me out if you name
No.
undead?
no, because it's the creature can't willingly enter the cylinder. So someone could push you through its confines, because you're then not willing. Because it's forced movement in that case.
Yes. And if I start in the circle, it's just not gonna shove me out.
Yeah, no. It's not gonna really do anything to you.
Now, in this consideration, Celine, the engines themselves might have something very similar to this, just in a more mechanical fashion, whether through runes or something on the inside.
Yeah.
That is acting as this ghost containment for the engine.
I figured
I'll probably mention that to Mordecai that they're probably using the spell that I'm thinking of as like a more mechanical interpretation of that spell as the containment for.
I mean, one would imagine that something is keeping them in there.
It's probably the spell that I'm thinking of. So it might be a good idea.
Dragging and give it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay.
See what we can muster.
Well, affixing it to a series of ropes is easy enough. Celine, are you going to doctor this any, or are you just going to let this happen, or what are you...
I mean, there's not really a lot that I can doctor now, is there?
I don't know. You're the necromancer, not me.
I mean, I could speak with the ghosts, but...
Do you want to create a sort of a blast shelter using your magic circle?
Yeah, we'll create a blast shelter.
Sure.
And protect Mordecai and Seltzer and Celine from the
Okay.
So once we have it attached and we have it roped up, just chuck it overboard.
Chuck it overboard and drag it.
All right. So some time is passing as you're doing this. Celine, casting time of a minute
1 minute.
And so you'll be able to use the holy water you created. Where
In
do
the
you want
circle.
to set this circle? Someone's gonna have to pilot the ship.
Probably set it at the helm.
Okay.
Like, at the helm, so it's capturing Seltzer, Mordecai, and myself so we can watch it.
Sure.
Because I have other ways of repelling the undead if need.
Okay. So the three of you are gonna huddle together in the pilot house, and then this is after you throw the engine overboard. And who's piloting? Mordecai? Selter?
Well, I'm all for piloting if I'm not needed, and clearly we have a fancy necromancer on board, so she's the expert in this regard. There's the mechanic. Somebody's got to keep this bird flying.
Very well. Okay, then Selter, in that case, this is some more delicate maneuvering as you're maintaining, as you're maintaining a more steady course. You also have 4 engines. The 5th one would give you a start, but the remnants of the ship are making it a little bit more difficult now, especially because you've added weight back to the ship by sort of biologically stitching some human corpses and the corpses of desert creatures onto the maw.
Look, we're gonna end up eventually getting Celine to work her magic in order to end up making sure that those souls are now trapped in the very woodwork. So, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as we get this thing in here, we're just gonna add more lift afterwards. It works itself out. I mean, it's already a proven concept.
Go ahead and make a persuasion then, as we're looking for something a little bit more detailed from you, as you are trying to coax this ship in a more precise manner in order to go fishing for this giant creature.
It will do it my way.
Oh, a 25 or a 25. Jeez. All right then. Nice. So it just took a little bit to warm your dice up. All right. So Selter, even with the 4 engines, which it does sound a little bit more harmonious because you're not getting a discordant more on one side than the other, especially since that other one kind of pops and hisses every now and again. The 4 of them, and you start taking off with some creaks and groans, but you're getting a feel now for the more streamlined-ish maw, and you begin cruising very slowly over the desert with the 4 engines humming like a bunch of bees in a hive, and just behind you is this engine just being drugged behind, leaving a nice sort of a sand wake almost in its path, as it's just the sand is parting and just leaving static wake behind it. And as you're approaching here, as this has taken some time, this giant worm creature kind of lifts up, and it sort of ripples and pulses in state, like segment by segment, back down into the ground as you're beginning your approach.
I am just waiting for that thing to bite.
Okay. What do you have anything on standby, or are you preparing some sort of action, Mordecai? What are you doing?
How high are we from the ground? 100 feet?
You wouldn't be able to be up that high. There wouldn't have been. I don't think there was enough rope, or especially not if you have to create some redundant ropes to haul this thing behind you.
Yeah, no, you probably would have to create some redundant ropes.
You're kind of skimming the sand dunes here. Not a lot of power to lift up, especially because there's the 4 engines too, so you might not be able to get the heights or the speed that you once did. So I don't know. We're saying that the bottom of the hull might be like 10 feet above the sand dunes, which if you're standing on the top deck, you're probably like 20 feet.
Yeah. I don't want to be that low.
Well, the boat's not scraping the sand. It is making a buzzing sound, but you are scraping something behind yourself.
I thought the intent was to have at least 30 feet.
We'll make do with what we got.
You got to, yeah. You had like 10 feet of chain, but that's not going to help with a bunch of other surviving ropes and whatnot to haul this piece of metal behind you.
just getting ready for that thing to catch
Look.
to bite the lure.
Assuming this thing has intestines, you just jerky the intestines and weave them up. You'll be fine.
Just wait.
Hey, I'm just taking a play out of your handbook, Mordecai.
All right. And so the hunt begins as the maw cautiously is skimming over the... Here, we'll put you back in the desert here. As the maw is skimming the sands of the desert, I don't have a maw token, but y'all get the idea here.
We're gonna end this thing's entire career.
And so just kind of slowly, making some patterns back and forth. After a little bit of time, there's nothing. Now, of course, it's called fishing, because if you caught something every time, it would be called catching. You can continue. You can change tactics. You can make a proposal.
Nothing more to do. We just wait for something to bite.
Okay. So
That's all I'm doing.
the sand dogs have fled, as far as you know. I mean, they could be lurking underneath the sand, but they've made no obvious signs. As the maw continues, it's kind of gurgling hum over the sands. Just you're leaving this pattern. You're leaving this this pattern in the sands as you're kind of going back and forth, or however. It could be full, but this was a really big thing, and yeah, it did eat 2 of these sand dogs, maybe even a little bit more. However,
Only 2 though.
However, I mean, this is even bigger than that. So,
No, it's only but see, the thing is, it was only 2 sand dogs, and like it's like, you said that it was easily longer than the ship, so I doubt that it's had its fill just yet.
yeah.
That's why we wait.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
It's not worth it to put somebody down there to risk them.
I mean, to the victor go the spoils, but in the hunt you must be patient.
Yep. Patience is a virtue.
It is a virtue.
Selter, did you have an idea or an observation?
Well, I could just as easily end up letting go, but if I let go of this ship, we go crashing down, and that's going to really end up causing a bit of a ruckus.
There is Mordecai.
There's Mordecai. But I think he would object being hooked down there.
Oh, well, there's that. I suspected to take over the console, but
Me? Darling. However would you let this beautiful face put themselves in such treacherous danger when we have 2 disposable psychopaths?
I'm not disposable.
No, I'm not disposable either.
No,
But
notice they only denied the one.
That does give me an idea, though. Hey, Mordecai.
Mm-hmm. You're not going down there.
No. Have you ever been wakeboarding before?
What?
What's a wakeboarding?
I mean,
well, sometimes if you get these really, really big fish in the sea, you can like attach ropes to them, and they leave wakes behind them, and you kind of just surf in the wakes. It's pretty cool. It's like a piece of wood and a rope.
I've done plenty of swimming.
Well,
Let's say I
think
used to
of it
live
like-
down the beach.
well, think of this like sand surfing. You surf on the dunes, and the board will be the engine.
As in, somebody goes down there to get swallowed by a giant worm who's easily as long as the ship. Maybe longer.
I was thinking that you could go down there mainly because you do have that get out of jail free card.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And it would be, and plus side, you'll get to say that I was like, I got to do sand surfing and was running away from a giant sandworm. The stories you could tell, Mordecai. The stories you could tell.
Mordecai, grab the wheel.
Oh,
No.
so Celine ends up baiting Selter.
You better grab it now.
No. If anyone's gonna do this,
Mordecai, we are about to crash. She is nowhere near the wheel.
I grab the wheel.
For glory.
Celine is like,
Damn
you
you,
know,
Selter!
Celine is like, you know, I honestly didn't think that was going to happen, but you know what?
I hope she has a get out of jail free card.
I hope she does too. Just you know, I hope she does too.
Because I have one, but in order to get there and get back to get her would be twice.
Well, I mean, you could do it twice, right?
Yes, and then I would be drained.
I think you
Don't
would
crash my ship. And immediately she's already like grabbing hold and just sliding down the rope like, oh,
Okay.
I'm gonna.
What supplies or equipment are you taking with you?
She is currently in armor. She is currently with her blades, and she's outfitted for primarily close quarters.
Okay.
She also
She can go
Yeah.
dagger.
All right.
And,
So Selter.
wait,
I have to take after. See, this is reminding me of a situation where I was once having to be under the tutelage of a nobleman who ended up enjoying his combatant weapons, and Mr. Gummer was quite enlightening. So, with his teachings, I have no doubt with the, how shall I place this, given the critical need to know information in his vernacular, that I will be able to end up performing this quite amicably.
All right.
I'm just hoping that she's going to be okay.
All right. So Mordecai, please give me a performance as you're guiding the ship. 21. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you could make them crop circles or something in the desert, or whatever pattern,
well, mostly
crisscross.
kind of staying on course, but kind of just weaving back and forth.
All right, Selter, I don't need you to roll to keep balance. You're not exactly moving at a tremendously fast pace, and this is a large enough object that you can ride on rather easily. Are you doing anything to add to the allure of this engine as it's scraping through the sand?
I am, but right now, beforehand, I am currently sweet-talking the bejesus out of any of those spirits who might be able to understand me in every language I know.
Okay.
Because I want them to understand I am a good friend. I'm about to let them all go. All I need them to do is give me a reason to end up getting that ship in order, so we can end up getting where we need to go, and maybe, just maybe, we might be able to end up letting the rest of them all go. I mean, it's either that or it crashes, we die horribly, and everybody's stuck inside inner tubes. So...
and then Celine, give me a nature or a medicine, whichever you'd like to roll.
I'll roll a medicine.
All right.
You
So,
are not having a great day.
uh,
No, I'm really not.
fortunately for things like for an idea like this, I'm not looking for anything super spectacular. Or I am a DM that, even though D&D doesn't technically have degrees of success, I do offer more and more rewards for higher and higher values. 10, however, is going to be enough here to realize that these things probably don't eat sand and rocks by themselves, as they are hunting down these sand dogs and seem to kind of be going purposely for them. And so you are dragging. I mean, you're making noise. It is for sure kind of, rustling the grains of sand and kind of coursing over the dunes as you're slowly passing. But you're probably going to get a better result with some sort of a biological, to scent the bait, so to speak. Now, Selter is on the bait. However, I don't know how scented she is. You do have a big barrel full of sand dog blood aboard the ship.
That's mine.
We can use part of it and refill.
If you acquire the target, you could fill that barrel in spades with this worm blood.
We could. It's okay. We'll Celine will go over it. It's like, we'll use part of it for this, and then, we'll keep some as backup.
Well,
Because, not putting out all of our eggs in one basket.
if I was there, I might end up making it a simple point that if we do this, we need to end up making a small sandbox down below just to let Mordecai feel at home as he starts swimming in making small sand castles.
He can swim in the blood ocean.
No, the sand. He's gonna feel some inclinations after this.
Well, that's fair. But no, he can swim in the blood ocean. Why rejuvenate your skin? Who knows?
Do you want to dump gallons of sand dog blood onto the engine or into the sands, or how would you like to do this, if at all?
We'll do it onto the engine. Just say to Zelda, "Watch out, we're scenting the bait." So she doesn't get blood on her.
Yeah, immediately
Well.
she looks up. What?
Yeah, suddenly this is Carrie in the desert.
Oh,
Well, so Celine, hey, Selter might
It's
respect
alright.
it. This was her tactic.
Breaking out my psionics.
Drop from.
This is the most appropriate time to reveal psionics.
Yeah, it's technically not magic. I wasn't lying to you guys. Pardon. Sure. Celine, make a. I don't know. Just make a athletics check, or you know what? You're. If it's better for you, you could go athletics, or you could just make a melee, a generic melee attack, strength based. As you're trying to position.
I have a strength of 8. If I'm considered proficient, I could add my proficiency bonus, but otherwise.
I can't say you're proficient with dropping barrels of blood onto desert floors.
no, that would be an improvised weapon attack.
Then athletics it will be, and I'll make sure to guidance myself before
Sure.
this because I'm gonna need it. Like, I'm really gonna need it. Oh, that's not terrible. It's an 11.
Okay. So you, with an 11, you're really straining, and you know what? Despite not having muscles in your left arm, I mean, you could still grip. It hasn't really affected any of your dexterity or your ability to lift, just like it hasn't affected your ability to see or anything along those lines.
Yeah. No, it's just an aesthetic change that may or may not be disturbing and may or may not affect my social interactions in the future.
Yes. And so, down below, and you manage to roll this barrel of blood just over the side, so it kind of boo, drops out the side of the maw, and just...
Wait, we didn't dump the whole thing? Okay.
Look, we could get you more sand dog blood. That's fine.
It's everywhere!
Yeah, Selter, this barrel, you just see this barrel drop out the side of the maw, and it just
actually
it
okay.
impacts, and you see like a little like not just a ripple from the impact of this heavy barrel full of blood, but as it's scraping along, like you're pulled through this cloud of blood that's kind of like hanging in the air as it's like everywhere and soaking, and now there's just this this blood trail dragging behind the donut. And you're coated in it.
It's times like these I wish I had Bright here. She'd prestidigitate that.
It's okay. I can actually fix it. Like I can actually clean Zelda off.
Celine, as you are now free again, Mordecai is piloting, Selter's on standby. I would like for you to make a perception check to see if by chumming the waters, so to speak, you have attracted the predator that you're hunting.
Yeah.
Seltzer is like, yeah, go ahead. Oh my god, that is awesome. I'm just gonna say, like, Seltzer's probably inadvertently making the bait more scrumptious, just from all of her thrashing trying to get it off, and unaware that she might be attracting a predator is no longer on her.
It is making irregular scrapings and other noise, like biological noises, like which isn't replicated by metal scraping and sand.
It's, oh god, it's like syrup. Ugh, it's coagulated.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? Just as a very quick aside, in volume percentage, what kind of percentage of water does this blood contain?
Oh, geez, I couldn't fathom a guess.
Is it like human blood, where it's like mostly water by volume?
I would presume.
Would you allow control of it via control water?
Dangerous
not,
precedent. Expecting
yeah,
blood
not in the current circumstances. If you want to experiment with that over time,
yeah.
or under different conditions, I'm open-minded to it. In this circumstance, I will say no.
Oh no, I'm not thinking like right now. I'm thinking like when Celine goes to clean off Selta later. Just to like strip the blood off of her and into a barrel.
Okay, and so you know what? Make a performance. You may not be deliberately performing, maybe you are, but go ahead, Selter, and make a performance check as you're here and you're coated and you're making noises and and all this other. You have the help of the blood, so I'm going to give you advantage on this. So you have a 20 instead of a 13. And so you also, I mean, you've been trying to sweet talk the spirits within, so we can add a little bit of performance in there too. Celine, you can see that there are some ripples starting to form behind, like following the blood trail, and it's moving in this direction.
Celine's just like smiles and she's like, "Hey, Celta, the worm's coming."
This leather armor is completely ruined. It's just a what?
The worm's coming, Celta.
Mordecai, you can hear this in the pilot house.
Yes, Celine's like,
Something about
the
the
worm's
Darwin, use your words.
Are you doing anything different, Mordecai? Are you changing the piloting pattern, slowing down, speeding up, lifting off, descending?
I am maintaining the kind of
There's nothing to
doing.
rummage. Sorry. There's nothing to rummage down here.
Celine just screams. It's like, no, you dark dragonborn! The worm's coming!
I haven't touched it yet.
Oh god.
I'm just keeping the back and forth going. The same speed.
Okay. The ripples, Celine, as you're on lookout, the ripples seem to, like, diminish and disappear.
Selena's, can I roll an insight check to see if I can, like, maybe make the assumption that it's probably going to go for a jump from underneath?
Go for an animal handling.
Animal handling? All right.
Yeah.
It's a wisdom skill.
Yeah.
I'm alright at it. Yeah, I'm alright at it.
You've seen this happen once before. You can narrow it down that it's lost interest, or that it is going to strike, because you've seen it do this before with the sand dogs. So Selter's squirming and kind of shouting and everything and scraping, along with this this metal donut is enough.
Yep.
It could be coming up for a an attack, or it's just turned around and said, "Eh."
Yeah, no, Selene is going to, basically scream down to Selter, "The one's gonna strike!"
Mordecai, you hear this too.
I am gonna slow down a little bit so it maybe will catch it.
Okay. Like, are slow down to a stop? Are you just gonna hover, or do you want to just go at a very like crawling pace forward?
Like crawl pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because fortunately, this isn't like a. I mean, it's kind of a helicopter maneuvering where you could do some slight stuff. You don't need to maintain a speed like with a plane and wings. So, okay, so you're very slowly moving. Selter, the call comes down. That it's the worm's turn, and what are you doing?
Well, I imagine I am currently trying to get this off me, as I end up kind of preparing. Okay, this thing's ready to strike, and I do my best work on the inside.
Okay.
If they say you're surrounded, I say we can attack in all directions.
That's very
No,
optimistic.
I'll give that. That's fair enough.
Okay.
Waiting for it to strike.
The ship slows. The engines, the 4 remaining ones, are constantly humming. The wind blows. Selter's ready. Kind of drying off, becoming a little bit more tacky and coated in this blood. The desert's still. The boom! A billowing cloud of sand erupts from beneath the metal donut. I mean, it's kind of filled in on the inside with a platform, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. And Selter and this donut are just like riding on the tip of this thing as its fangs are opening. And Selena and Mordecai, I mean, Mordecai, if you're kind of in a holding pattern, you know, you can kind of go to the back of the pilot house here and poke your head out, and you can kind of see what's going on here.
As soon as I see it, I am scraping my thumb across a fang, and I'm casting Bane
Okay.
on the creature.
A charisma saving throw. Little did you know this is the most handsome thing ever to exist.
And
Apparently so.
oh.
The sand looks like flowing blonde hair as it kind of does a slow motion like a shampoo commercial, just shaking golden locks of sand off. One of its non-existent eyes kind of winks at you, and a pearly fang glimmers.
It's all right. You want to know why? Because I have something that won't fail.
You know, interestingly enough, this die appears on the board, cocked between 2 and 20, but it did give the 20 result as the text command. So, sorry, Fluffy Sheep, I had to move you aside to show off that this creature did in fact just have a wonderful slow motion shampoo commercial.
So, how far is Selter away from me?
From where you had to push it out of the maw, I'd say she's about 50 feet away from you. Well, no, hang on. Being drugged behind. It's probably longer than that. We're probably talking. We're probably talking about 80 feet, I'd say. Like
50,
at a downward.
50's a little far for that. Okay then. Well, if Mordecai's didn't work.
Oh, I thought it was actually closer than that because I wouldn't have been able to cast Bane at that point.
Yeah, no, because it's only 10 foot range.
Yeah.
Oh,
you would be closer, Mordecai. You're at the back of the ship in the pilot house. Celine is up at the broken where the maw was like kind of torn into and dropped the barrel here.
We were all in the pilot house because that was where the ward was.
Yeah, that's where
you wouldn't be able to push the blood out. You'd have to actually go down to the.
Oh, you have to go down to the thing to set it up there, down there. Yeah.
No, I mean you could run back up, but from where you were at after pushing it and watching.
Yeah. No, I would have come back up to.
Sure.
Watch,
Okay.
so.
No problem. No, then that's fine. You're closer then, since you're at the rear of the ship.
Okay, cool. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that I know won't fail. I'm going to target Selta, I'm going to target Mordecai, and I'm going to target myself. And I'm going to bless us.
Okay. Well, there are 3 targets. I mean, you could always bless the worm, but whatever.
I'm not going to bless the worm.
I see how it is.
Screw the worm. I want the worm to be part of the ship. Assimilate.
Okay, so Mordecai, you throw out a Bane. Celine throws out a Bless, and Celine, you just for a moment you're almost at eye level with Mordecai as you're tossed and tumbled up along with his donut, and you look down and there's just an ever expanding kind of in this slow motion gaping maw that has rippling teeth surrounding it. That's lunging up as you've now ceased your upward momentum and you begin your downward momentum. Do you wish to do anything before this inevitability occurs?
Well, I think I might end up bailing at this point and get on to what is its current back.
Out of the range of the maw, at the very least. So still falling, but not into its gullet.
Let's go acrobatics at disadvantage for this. As you're tacky, covered in blood, you're already in the air. A 15. So you're trying to you're trying to twist and squirm out of this as you're going through, and you're hoping to be able to try and escape this thing's open just mouth, this huge mouth of rippling teeth. Okay. And as you do so, you're trying your best, and the mouth, you all can see that Selter, who tried to squirm out of the way, is just inside the thing's mouth as the teeth just close and almost form like an ivory dome at the top of this thing's mouth. And now, of course, you know that has to kind of pucker up to turn the teeth inwards. But in this moment, Selter has disappeared along with this metal donut inside of this great worm, this desert worm.
Are we in some kind of initiative or something?
Like narrative initiative?
Narrative initiative. Mordecai or Celine, you can try doing something.
I want to attack it. I'm gonna throw a guiding bolt.
Sure. Roll it.
17 to hit.
It does not hit. Your guiding bolt just spanks into the side of this thing, and it's calloused. I mean, it's still a kind of a wiggly exterior, but it almost seems to absorb the attack.
All right, bonus action. I inspire Celine.
Celine, you're inspired to do something.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up with a guiding bolt of my own.
Pew. That one will hit with a 23. All right, so minimum armor class is 23, guys. This has been established.
And it's going to be taking some damage.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. 16 radiant.
Of 26.
Selter, as
Oh,
your fault... oh, I'm sorry. Was there something else, Celine?
Yeah, no, Mordecai, remember that you're blessed.
Oh. I can add a d4 to that, actually.
Yeah.
Nope. Well, one of them's a 4.
One of them's a 4.
The 4. I don't know. You're cherry picking here, Coffee.
So, you know, technically make it a 21.
Okay, that you do hit with your guiding bolt.
Okay.
All right.
So, technically, so the next attack against it does still have advantage because 2 guiding bolts hit.
Yes, that is
That's
correct.
decent.
All right, so it's
Yeah,
16 radiant and 14 radiant, so 30 radiant damage has
30, 40, 47 is higher level casts.
Oh,
Sorry,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I didn't see the the damage above it. Derp. Yep. All right.
So it'll be 26, 40, yeah, 47.
47. All right. So you two start unloading into this thing here. Selter, you know, kind of now cutting back to you. You see the sky is blotted out as these ivory teeth close above you. You are on the inside of this thing. What would you like to do? There is sand and stuff all kind of whirling around. It's moist in here.
Yeah, well, trust me, I had that going on way before I got in here. Thank you very much, Celine and Mordecai. At this point, thinking my situation and going back to Mr. Gummer's training. And if I recall, his training said something about, and she ends up unsheathing her weapons in both hands, because at this point, what's a shield gonna do? And she's gonna tickle it from the inside.
Okay.
And if I understand this correctly, I have advantage on this. Because of guiding bolt.
Yes.
Oh. So
Yeah,
even though you are in darkness, you... So this would be then a normal attack, as you normally wouldn't be able to see. However, given the circumstances...
it doesn't matter which way I go.
Yeah,
I
I will say in this case that that with the double guiding bolts and the fact that you were just swallowed up here, you could have advantage on this.
Natural 20. Natural 20. Natural 20. Roll
Aw.
your d4. You are blessed.
A nice tender caress.
19.
That will hit.
Very well then. I think that'll work.
Yeah, I think that'll work too.
And let's go with the other. Yeah, I think those work.
I think those will work just fine, yeah.
And
Okay.
I am purposely going deeper.
Sure.
I'm not trying to fight my. I'm gonna work my way here, and then this is gonna be a proper through and through. If you catch my drift.
Okay. So much like the old pirate movies where they take their dagger and they kind of tear down the sail to get to the deck below from the crow's nest or whatever, you're doing something similar except with your imperial short sword, as you're going willingly further down into the gullet of this beast. And as you're tearing on the way down, this is it does rumble, and you're getting like a very loud. There's no like sonic or whatever thunder damage to it, but you are definitely it is responding to your tender caress, Selter. And
Can't
so
have them seeing what I can do.
the rest of you do hear that this thing just and flecks of mucus and blood and I mean it's kind of like mixing with some of the stone and whatever you hope that's not chunks of selter that's kind of coming out here. And Selter, you are well, you're going to be taking acid damage. I mean, oh no.
What a tragedy. You are aware I use this stuff to butter my toast, right?
Yes. Of all the people to do this. All right, so I guess that's only going to be 11 acid damage to you here.
Oh no, whatever will I do?
As you're inside this thing, it does have a pleasant, effervescent kind of a nice spice to it, I suppose.
You get that acid bath you wanted.
Hey.
See? It's almost like I thought this through.
And you all can aboard the ship. You can see that its mouth begins to do that kind of that puckering in, where it's not just the teeth that have closed, but now they're starting to come into the mouth to sort of like, in this case, the rip and tear as things are caught between the teeth and pulled with its pucker, like that. Does that make sense to you all? So it came up like this, closed, and now it's almost reverting back on itself to shred and to swallow down.
Now, I can't imagine that the condition of our engine must be still intact at this point.
I imagine that it's probably getting pretty battered in the ensuing chaos of
acid.
rocks.
Yep.
Battered and corroded. Yeah.
There is Selter from the inside, even though it's still muffled for you. You are hearing metallic and scrapes, and you're probably even seeing some sparks flashing on the interior of this thing as these teeth are scraping against the metal, and you hear sounds of like as the structure of this engine is getting to a not so structural point. We come back out to the outside. Mordecai and Celine, what would you like to do here? As you see, this thing is beginning its swallow mechanism here of its teeth inverting and sort of that peristalsis action starting to ripple down from the thing's mouth into the rest of its body that is buried in the sand.
That is a good question, actually.
I'm not really changing tactic. I'm going guiding bolt again.
Okay.
Level 3.
Pew. Uh, 12 will not hit though.
Roll your guidance.
Yeah, roll your bless.
Wait.
I probably won't, but yeah.
A 13, no.
13.
No, its
Nope.
AC's higher than a 13.
Okay.
Celine, are you going to continue the salvo to try and blast into this thing from the outside?
I am.
The ropes, by the way, Mordecai do shear off with that with the teeth grinding, and so technically the ship is free. Hey, that is a crit.
Oh, that's a crit. Oh, yeah.
That's a green number.
Muscles.
All right, roll it.
I want it to die. So that'll be 28 and 13 is 38, 41 points.
You're
of
almost
damage.
keeping up.
Okay. So you lay into this thing and just a chunk, like kind of like what you saw when it took a couple sand dogs, which I mean you crit against those things. So yeah, Celine, what do you have against desert creatures here? You're just blasting them apart. But you definitely just sort of put a blast into this thing, and just a chunk of this flesh just comes out, and even some of the blood sprays back up onto the back of the maw from where you hit it.
Now, just as a like a thematic thing, just to explain how I imagine that happens, is Mordecai shoots his beam with a sword swing. It goes towards it, and then Celine follows up behind it with her own bolt.
Oh, like a
into the
double
beam
attack
and
or
just go-
something?
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
Just going bang.
It's a couple's attack. Yay, how romantic. Very good. I like that sort of creativity. All right, sure. Yeah, so Mordecai, I mean, you hit here, but like you guided the way, and Celine drove it home, and through the power of your attacks, you blew out a chunk of this thing. Now we come back to Selter, who is still being digested, but very willingly and continuing to go down the gullet of this thing. Oh my goodness.
Oh, honey, what could that possibly mean?
So that for everyone at home who can't see that is a green number also, with a 28.
Oh.
No, a lot more than 28.
Well, no, I meant on your attack was a 28
okay.
as your
Yeah.
critical.
Yeah, because
That's 42.
Yeah.
yep.
All right.
And
Selter.
I don't believe that no.
No,
No,
that's a natural
it's,
one.
Yeah.
Well.
That's well, I mean,
But your crit made up for it.
yeah, no, that crit was a spicy meatball.
So there's a feast and a famine here. The short sword again continues to just shred down this thing, and it even opens up a a segment here that you might even be able to see like a little glimmer of Selter as she's like sliding, like you almost just like see the blade glimmer, and that's another part. So it's not just the spray of it's not just the spray of blood here. But for the two of you, like the back of the maw is now getting sort of like an acid blood coat. Well, not acid blood, but like an acid coat as well. It's not going to deal damage to you because you're in the pilot house or whatever. But the back of the maw is kind of like sizzling, and you can see that Selter is putting in work on the inside, because not only did you take a chunk from the outside where she struck, like, so the two chunks met and you actually rended a hole of sorts in the hide of this thing. And
I want to do that, but it's probably got an amazing con, and I don't want to waste my other spell slot on that.
And you're hearing just this gurgle, groan, roar. It's very wet sounding, as you could imagine, though, because there's a lot of fluids involved here.
Oh, trust me, honey, I've been swimming in fluids all here since this started. It's nothing new to me. This is home at this point.
So take your paltry 13 acid damage, as you have that, Selter, as you're
Okay.
coated in digestive juices.
Very well then.
And
Comfy.
I'm almost affected.
you hear now as it's grinding, and as you like look above with the little glimpses of light that are pouring in through this thing's perforation here on the way down. The engine, you're hearing clank, 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 as it's more of just the crinkle and the crunching. And it sounds like some kind of otherworldly whistle, like a howl.
Come out to play, boys.
And Mordecai and Celine, you can hear this as well, that the engine is rupturing inside this thing.
Oh, there it is.
Oh boy.
And at first pouring, like coming up out of the thing's mouth as it's kind of flailing and grasping, it looks like maybe almost like steam or spittle, as a couple almost invisible things just seem to escape through. And
those are some of those ghosts.
And then you start seeing that this this worm is starting to frost on the outside as it's flailing. And its flesh is, at the same time, it looks like it's almost being freeze-dried. As its mucus and goo and everything is freezing, and yet at the same time its flesh is shriveling and and liquefying only to freeze more. And with a final metallic implosion, almost the reverse of an explosion. I mean, so it'd be like if you were to, to backmask an explosion on a record or something like that. There's just this kind of suction as a last gasp, except it's an inhale of sorts occurs. And Mordecai and Celine, you take refuge inside your protective circle, inside the pilot house. And Mordecai and Celine, you can watch what happens. Because there's two of you inside the protective circle.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
This is gonna go.
Yeah, you could sit and watch on the sidelines, and as usual, let me do all the work.
Selter, from the inside of this thing, you start seeing spirits that are flowing through it. And, there's that moment where one kind of comes up to you and touches you, and it's so cold. It's so cold.
Get to work, honey. You're earning your freedom tonight.
The engine explodes in cold and necrotic damage.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no. No, no, no.
Oh no.
No, 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 no.
And from the part in the gullet where this thing started, of course, you saw the simultaneous freezing and necrotizing of the creature, and it just continues down as it shudders and gurgles until it can no longer. And
like I was planning for this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, run away from the bouncing engine.
Do we see Selter through the little gaps or anything?
No, you don't. Selter, how many hit points do you have?
Right now I'm sitting at a comfortable 32.
Okay. That's going to become a more uncomfortable number as ghosts are ripping through this thing. And you're starting to see, coming through the areas where the flesh started to desiccate and stretch apart. You're seeing spirits just pour out of this thing in like a whirlwind. And they even come up and they come up to you, Mordecai and Celine, and they are trying to lunge, and there's something here, but you can see that your circle is keeping them out as they're being deflected off of it. And the ship is crawling with spirits like ants on a they're crawling over the worm too, like ants on a corpse here. But they're crawling throughout the maw, and they're trying to test your magic circle. Celine and Mordecai. And when it's done, the spirits dissipate. And the thing doesn't so much flop over as it just kind of breaks at the point where it was emerging from the sand and falls apart. And just this rotting slag of corpse slush is making a vile pool in the desert sands.
It'll do. It'll do.
Does it look dead?
Yeah, I imagine it looks very dead.
Very dead?
Exceptionally dead.
Okay. I'm still at the wheel. I want to get down to Selter.
hold on. We need to land this thing. Land it.
I quickly land it.
This is so sad. Mordecai played Tornado of Souls.
Make a performance, Mordecai.
Alright.
Should we get to this?
Yep.
Hey!
You, with the 4 remaining engines, you come back down in a tight circle and you park it right next to this very dead desert worm.
And then I am going to run directly towards the thing because I saw Selter go in, and I am going to try and see if I can find her.
Okay. Celine?
I will go with him because if she needs healing, that's gonna need to be me. I'm gonna need to do that.
Okay.
I've got two.
Medic.
Although plus side is if the thing can if the circle on the ship can replace material components, what I might be able to do is I might be able to revive Selter.
Maybe. You got to find the corpse first.
If we can get her onto the ship fast enough.
There's a very large assumption right there.
If we can get her onto the ship fast enough, I'll be able to revive her.
Yep, I'm looking
Again, this is all assuming that Zelda's dead.
And and not just unconscious. If you're just unconscious, I can just like pump a cure wounds into you and get you up. And...
Well, you get to find out soon. For all you know, I'm currently relaxing in this pseudo hot tub that has just been made.
Yep, I am.
We hope that's how we find you. But no, wait.
With the sword.
Okay. The maw sets down, and Celine and Mordecai begin to search.
Yes, we're going to begin searching.
You are going to take some acid damage as you're rummaging through because this thing's digestive system is exploded and all over. And you have to pick through the juicy chunks. But if you're going to find... she's not in an obviously recoverable location, which means that if she's alive, you're going to have to start digging inside this... you're going to have to go in the worm.
Yep.
Or the remains of it, anyway.
I'm going to cast Aura of Vitality.
Okay.
And I will... And I will cast Protection from Energy.
Okay.
Of course, you know what I'm aiming.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'll just,
So you buff yourselves and go in?
Yep. Well, I'm guessing it's like it's buffing each other. He's buffing the both of us, and I'm buffing myself with some acid resistance.
Yep, and as soon as I see Selter, she's getting an Aura of Vitality.
Yeah. Healing. I need healing.
Okay.
So we're just going for it and digging. Selter.
Make one of you can make a survival at advantage because you're both trying very hard to look for signs to follow the trail of the gut.
You can do it.
At advantage. Oh.
An 8 or a 9.
Oh!
All right.
Okay, if she was blown anywhere, she was blown deeper, so we gotta start at the colon.
Okay. So each of you, well, you have protection from energy, but
Yeah, so I'll take 8.
as you're digging on this in this search, you're going to be taking 8 acid instead of the 16.
Yep. That kind of pains, but that's all right.
Yep.
You're going to continue your search?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it again.
While we're searching, I'm going to give Celine some of those hit points.
Mm-hmm.
Because it lasts a minute. She gets sick.
Okay.
Alright. Actually, do you want me to make the check at advantage? Because I still got that bardic inspiration.
Go for it.
And then I'll use the bardic inspiration. It's a D8.
Yes.
18.
Okay.
Survival.
You continue. 9 acid damage.
Each.
Yes.
Send them back to. I'm not going terribly. I'm alright.
Wait, are we both protection from energy or no?
Yes.
Okay. I flubbed my HP the last time.
Continuing the
Oh, sorry.
search.
Yeah, continuing the search.
Okay.
I'll also just as we're searching, I'll also be noting down this bit can go here and this bit can go here.
Alright.
You know, the original reason why we sacrificed an engine to blow this thing sky high.
Okay. Go ahead and make another survival at advantage.
This time.
This one's for me.
Yeah, this one will be purified hydrogen. Ooga booga booga. So make it a check?
Yep. Unless you're giving up the search.
No. No, I mean, like, roll 20.
Roll 20
Make
is
it a
being
check.
dumb.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, no, so
It's derping.
Yeah, that's what I
Alright.
mean. It's like you're making the check.
You're milking the suspense here. Come on. The acid is starting to like eat into your clothes, and it's starting to, like you there's just bubbling and some kind of an effervescence you can feel kind of tingling around you here.
I will gather up some, like, after we find shelter, I'll probably gather up some of this acid. Be very useful to make acid vials out of it.
Well, let's see if it's not forming on your end here, then it's you have a +4 to survival.
Mordecai has a +5.
Oh, so Mordecai, are you making
Am I
this?
doing the check or are you?
Yeah, no, I said you're doing the check.
Oh,
because I
well then,
don't-
go ahead and
I
roll
had
it
the
then.
situation-
I thought we were.
Okay,
I thought a roll was
I
eaten
thought
by
maybe
roll
you were
20 or
doing it,
something.
That's why I was
No.
confused.
No,
Okay.
I was like, hey, Mordecai, this one's all you. Because you
Alright,
have the highest.
16.
You continue
16.
slogging through the remains, and you each take 10 acid damage.
Ooh,
She's
that's
got to
a
be
lot.
here somewhere. She's got to be here somewhere. You haven't found her yet, though.
Zelda!
Zelda.
Please say that you're taking a bath in these digestive juices.
Are you going to continue the
one.
search? Well, after the Aura of Vitality, of course.
That one's for Celine.
Yeah, we might as
How
well
many have I done so far?
continue the search.
Okay, give me another survival.
Zelda!
Well, I didn't get any report on what I would actually be taking as far as damage, so I have no idea what the hell's happening.
You're absolutely correct.
Yep. So I'm
Mordecai?
in no condition to say whether I can answer or not, or if Celta's just being, well, Celta.
Am I going? If I'm making the check again?
Yes.
Jesus.
Oh, that's a 10. Where is she?
Boys, at this rate,
11 acid damage.
Ooh.
honey, at this point you'll dissolve before I do.
Alright, I'm gonna burn a, I'm gonna
I'm
burn
gonna
a second
provide
level.
you with an inspiration. You're gonna take the roll this time.
Alright, and I'm gonna burn a, second level cure wounds into my soul.
Okay.
9, 6, 15.
Just
so
chunks of worm throwing, digging through, trying to follow the digestive tract. There's bits of metal of the engine and all sorts of things here.
That one's for me.
Yep. Okay. So I'm gonna make the check this time. And it's gonna be... Come on,
Inspired.
8.
7.
Somebody's fine. That's a 25.
Okay. So on this, take 12 acid
12.
damage, and you see a foot and covered in goop. However, the foot is looking skeletonized. There's chunks of flesh that don't seem to be on it, or rather, when you're digging, it sort of comes up, rather
Instantly,
like dissolved.
Gets a cure wound. Instantly, it gets an aura of vitality.
There doesn't seem to be an effect, Mordecai.
Selena's gonna pull the corpse out.
Okay. Go ahead and give me an athletics at advantage as you two are working in tandem. And this will be to pull and to try and climb out before you continually take this acid damage.
11.
Ooh, all right. As you're going through this acid swamp, you're having trouble pulling her free. You're gonna take 8 acid damage, and parts of her do come free. Except you're seeing that like chunks of her flesh are sort of sloughing off and being left behind as you're trying to pull her out. You want to try again?
Delaney kind of looks down with a grimace and she's like, I can't fix this. Yeah, we'll try again to get her out. Do you want to try inspiring me?
Yes.
Alright, so roll it, and then roll 1d8. It's a 14 that time.
Alright, take 8 more acid damage. You've dislodged most of her, except there's still some of her left behind under the folds of worm flesh. Snowflake is up in the pilot house looking down on everyone.
Okay. I'm going to burn another 2nd level cure wounds into myself. And
I'm giving that one to... Wait, how many...
I get 11 out of it.
How many hit points did I take?
You've taken another 16 from the last 2.
Your own clothes have also been melting and fraying away. Okay. The Imperial armor is dissolving.
And then I have to back up. I have to back away.
Yep. Yep, I'll make, if you wanna just inspire me and I'll make the last one on my own.
I don't have any more inspiration left.
Okay.
I only have 3.
Okay, well then I'm just going this bear.
I'm gonna aura of vitality you.
With an 11 on the athletics to get the final chunks of salsa.
That's a good way of describing it. As you've been pulling, parts of her flesh and whatnot have been sloughing off and remaining behind. And so you can pull her sort of... Well, you know how lizards shed their skin? Well, she shed a lot more than that, as it sort of is pinned beneath some folds of this worm. And you just have some, like, musculature and tendons, and just... She's a juicy skeleton plus.
We're gonna gather up all her bits and we're gonna get her onto the ship right now, because maybe with that circle I might be able to fix her. Maybe.
11 acid damage on your way out.
That's fine.
Are you okay, Mordecai?
No, I backed away.
He backed off.
Okay.
I did that on my own. He was providing me with healing, but that was it.
Okay.
Sorry, hold on. Yeah, no, so 34 and 11 is 23.
23, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so Selena's gonna race this race the Celta bits up onto the ship.
Okay.
I follow.
And then with every ounce of, she's gonna lay Celta down in the circle, and I'm gonna hope for a DM adjudicated miracle here, because this isn't under the purview of this spell at all.
Do you need anything for that?
Well, I'm hoping that the circle might be able to provide.
Okay.
What's the
Right.
spell?
Roll 20. Send the spell. Send the spell, please. Because it's the only resurrection spell that I have access to by your purview. Not to mention, it's the only one that I'm high enough level to use. But just gonna lay her down in the circle, put all of her bits that we have back in place, and just pump the power and hope it works.
Make a medicine check to reassemble the bits of her that you have.
Medicine.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have a very juicy corpse of Selter that you've laid out on this circle, and you're hoping to cast Revivify here.
Yep.
Normally this does require diamonds worth 300 gold pieces.
That's why I was
As I said, I'm
asking.
hoping
You
for a
want me to
DM
look at her
adjudication
treasure
here.
hoard.
I'm going to hope for a DM adjudicated miracle here. And I do mean, I'm talking about like a major miracle.
Can I make a check to know whether or not I know about this component?
Well, Celine, I mean, Celine in her reassembling of Selter could tell you that this is,
Yeah.
I mean, this requires a major investment
major.
of something of value.
Value. And
I go get Selter's treasure hoard.
Sure.
No, if we're waking her up, she will kill us.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. I mean, I suppose that she can pay for her own resurrection. But no. So Celine is just If Mordecai's gonna provide that, then Celine will use that as a material component along with the circle and just hope for, as I said, a major miracle on the part of We Just. Usually this would be when Celine would be calling upon the divine intervention, but she's 2 levels too low for that.
Okay.
And Mordecai is reaching out with every little bit of small amount of faith that he has too.
Oops.
Oh. Okay. We've returned to the we have returned to the plane of infinite reflection, shall we say. It's happening, Derek. You're getting your moment.
Jade. Why are you here? Now, Selter, you find yourself in a dark place with a light. Yet a voice addresses someone who's not you.
Darling, do you not understand on who it is that you are addressing here? My name is Selter Hervea too, and I will be addressed as such. Shut up, shut up.
You're going to be addressed in short time. I'm speaking to the one beside you. And Selter, you see that there is a little, almost like a little snake, that in its mouth that has teeth in it, it's holding an eyeball as it's down by your feet.
Now what do we have here? She kind of picks up the thing as
It wiggles a little bit and looks at you, and it blinks by closing its mouth, kind of giving you a little bit of a reflection of one of the last things that you saw in the daylight as this giant desert worm. Set her down, Selter. I shouldn't be laughing, but that's anyway. You've died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that what this is?
No, this is not death, but you have died.
Oh, good, because I was about to say, I mean, death is right now really freaking boring. I'm currently talking to some form of incorporeal voice. I'm assuming you have a name.
Yes.
And it would be?
At this moment, it is not a concern. However, if you listen closely to my voice, perhaps something more primal within you can recognize the power contained within it. A part of the blood that was given to people who weren't deserving of it so long ago, to create your kind. In a way, Zelda, I suppose, that I would be a great-great-grandfather.
Always hope to end up living up to greatness.
That, I suppose, will be up to you.
Oh, and why is that?
Because
everything is up to me, darling. That's the way it works.
That's the way it always has been. We have been the ones who've been in charge for so long, Zelda. We had to do it all. At least that's what we thought. There was a time then that even we were laid low. Some of us were able to escape by different means. I slipped someplace in between.
So I guess that's how we found each other. And what does this have to do with the worm you decided to name? It's cute and all, but...
You see two glowing green eyes moving always just in the darkness perimeter as they're gazing at you.
Oh, we're gonna have some fun, you and I.
I can only do so much for my people in this time. I have seen many pass through this place, and none yet have been found worthy of the gifts of old to bring about the age of new. And so I ask you, would you like to be dead? Or would you perhaps like something different?
Death is just so common and boring. Do you really want to know what I want? Do you really want to know? Since it's just you and me in the afterlife.
What is in your heart of hearts? I can only see the exterior of it, Jade. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Jade in that case. Selter.
Okay.
Yeah, well. And as you look down, where you're looking again, you see that you wouldn't know this. You are appearing as you appear to Mordecai and Celine right now. In fact, as you look, like one of your arms kind of drops off, and you have some like gashes and dissolved. There's like chunks of metal sticking out of your body.
Oh, Okay. Okay. You want to know? I want the world. I want everything past it. I will have oceans of gold. Look, from horizon to horizon. I will have every single thing that walks, crawls, flies, or so much as blinks. Bow. Because that is my legacy. Greatness, unquestioned. I have the blood in me of a conqueror, of a creator, of something that was before God, before man.
As you're saying this, Selter, your tongue kind of falls out of your skull as a little bit more flesh is dripping, and these green eyes continue to watch you as you're still addressing in this passionate manner.
She's still going, even without a tongue.
And I will bow and worship me and God.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but...
Not you. Not it. No, August will stop me. I am immortal. God. In fact, I am. Whatever.
I want you to... I want you to make a... You choose the social skill. Deception? Yeah, I don't know if this is really deceiving. Performance? Persuasion? Even intimidation? Should you be so bold? I want you to choose a social skill. I will let you roll this at advantage. And based on both the number and the skill that you choose, I will give you a response to your... As you're there and just your flesh is like, and you're making hand motions and just like the skin on your finger is just flies off in a violent gesture. Persuasion at a 27 from a dissolving Selter.
There we go.
And the eyes get really close and really low as it's just sort of ducking, as it's watching as you perform, or you're persuading. I mean you're just passionate even as you're dissolving and falling apart here. You, Selter, understand, I believe, what it was like in our day. Perhaps a day that will rise again. It is a rare treat to not see a dragon scared, simpering, weak of mind or body. And I suppose then there's no time like the present to help secure the future from the past. And so, Selter, I can release you into death, or I can help you grasp this goal as a representative of not dragonborn, but... And now, at this point, you are... in this lit mist approaching, a face coalesces out of this darkness like a fog, but it's not solid, or as much as fog is solid. And it gets very, very close. Its eyes glow green. Inside its mouth, it glows green. And its jaws split open wide, almost the lower jaw distending like a snake's as it smiles. A representative of dragons themselves, my dear Selter. I will give you a gift if you'll accept it.
I will accept your tributes.
The face, still smiling, draws back so you only see the inside lit of the mouth and the eyes in the darkness.
Yes. Yes.
Now, you know what to do. And the eyes flicker from you, Selter, down to the area by your feet. And as you look down, and you see that that little splat is still there, you look back up in a moment as skidoo! The jaws lunge from the darkness and consume your body. Back aboard the maw, Celine, you're trying to revivify this. I mean, calling it remains is, I guess, technically true. I mean,
It remains.
bits in a shape of a dragonborn named Selter. Flesh is missing, some bone parts are missing. I mean, she doesn't have one of her eyes, or rather, it's just sort of like a popped grape. Like, she is a wreck. I mean, in a sense, Selter, like, would be a representation of the maw in its own fashion. And as Mordecai's coming out, just Selter's horde, like, gems, I have gems. Where do you need them? I don't want to put a ton of words in your mouth, Mordecai, but I get your intention. And Celine's like, just kind of in a circle, and you're doing this. You invoke the spell, and Selter's horde, as you have laid this out on this symbol of Ouija's on the top deck, it glimmers and glints, and in this moment, a blinding flash, even that located in the middle of a desert in the afternoon, occurs. And then, where there was once a flash of bright, like almost magical flame like you could expect from Ouija's, you each open your eyes, and Celine and Mordecai, despite having the natural ability to see in the dark, It's as if the sun has been blotted out. There is nothing but darkness surrounding you right now.
Celine, what's going on?
Okay, I didn't invoke this. I'm just as confused as you. What the
Did
hell?
it work? Did it work?
I don't know! I don't know if it worked!
Selter?
You alive in there?
And the laughter
Wherever it is
brings
that you are.
a little bit more light, a little bit more light, and a little bit more light. Standing in the circle of Weejas, all the gems and treasures that she had consumed is Selter. Rather, in the flesh like you all. I mean, your clothes were kind of tattered and kind of tearing away here. And here she is. Though, in place of where she had flesh, you see that Selter, the Black Dragonborn, now seems to be composed of shadow.
What the hell?
Yeah, you said it, Mordecai.
What the hell? It's not supposed to do that, is it?
No! No, it is not!
Selter, it's a little bright here. And so, as your own eyes are adjusting, you blink. In this moment of brightness having been brought back from the brink, you see, Mordecai and Celine, that she almost turns into a pool of shadow and retreats back by the pilot house in the shade and reforms herself in a bit of a puff.
What?
Yeah, so, how are you feeling? How are you doing that? What the hell happened?
Honey, when it comes down to me, even the gods pay their tribute.
What?
Okay, who did you speak to?
Oh, I think you know that name.
What? I don't understand. What? What?
I have been blessed and found worthy to receive such tribute.
From...
Celine, make a history at disadvantage.
Okay,
This is also going to be very difficult, but hey, it's a numbers game.
that's a 13.
Okay. Now, I'm going to leave this up to Derek. Selter can look the same. Selter can look enhanced in ways, coming back. But, all right, so nothing else is going to stir in your brain, though, Celine.
Now,
What kind of tribute are we talking about here? What happened? What did you do?
I ripped out the heart of a worm and ate it, bathed in its juices. I conquered full many times my size, as I am wont to do. I went to the other side, and I commanded the respect of those in between. And they offer to one such as I tribute as is right.
Wait, the ones in between.
Yeah. Nifty, ain't it? You see, in this current form, as I will manifest. Something I serve scrape to no one unless it serves me, my greater ambition. Now, the unfortunate part is right now I do not see my treasure. But it's a little consequence now. But for some right now.
On that, it was consumed trying to bring you back. So.
Well, you mean my actual... I was referring to the seas that I have been...
No, yeah, we had to.
Oh, you done messed up now.
I'm just gonna say that your treasure is probably inside of you. I think that's where it went. Which we're going to be using its bits to spruce up the mall. Wrath of Zelda. The mall will be.
Oh, honey, I'm going to love this.
Yep. I can do that. That's the one.
You're muted on the stream.
Oops, sorry about that. And so with, I hope I haven't been muted for too long. Sorry about that, everyone. The maw is set inside the corpse of the worm. The wires are strung through it. Celine is there to coax it and to understand it and study it with her knowledge. And the maw is very much cocooned inside the corpse of this thing. As would you have to be from the inside to mold it and shape it to get it where you need it to go. And so, your homework, such as it is, for next week, is I want you to design the maw as it emerges a beautiful butterfly from its grisly cocoon. after the shaping of the flesh and the molding. And perhaps as sweet recompense for Selter, or even for you, Mordecai, is you see that a worm like this does in fact travel through rock and sand, and it has to do so by consuming, tunnels and leaving holes. But that also means that in the remnants, as the flesh is summoned and things are bubbled up, there's a slew of metals, rocks, and gems, obviously not cut, that are found in the guts of this thing, giving you an ample supply of raw material and raw flesh. And so long as whatever the maw emerges as, if it has 4 kind of donut-shaped engines, I'll be happy. But that's your all's homework. I want you to build the Maw Reborn, if you would still want to call it that even, and give me something to put up on the screen for this coming session as we hatch.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, let's take a little break, everyone. I don't know if you have to use the restroom or get a drink or whatever, but let's take a break and come back, and then we'll see where we go from here.